Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Allison and I'm a member of the mentoring team at the Cherie Blair Foundation for Women. I'm delighted that you're joining us for this session and thrilled that you're part of our community of mentees and mentors that spans the globe. This video is part of our Skill Boosting Mentoring series, designed to help you learn a range of tools, techniques, tips, and strategies that you can use in your mentoring relationships in this program, as well as when you go on to mentor others in your enterprises, in your jobs, and in your communities. We're pleased to welcome Professor David Clutterbuck, mentoring expert extraordinaire, co-founder of the European Mentoring and Coaching Council, and practice lead at David Clutterbuck Partnership. He has a range of wisdom on mentoring to share with us and really will help us to boost our mentoring skills so we can all build mutually impactful, strong, and effective mentoring relationships. All of the videos are housed on the platform, so you can refer back to them whenever you'd like, throughout your time in the program and as an alum of the program. We encourage you to keep these conversations going in your mentoring relationships as well as via the platform with other mentees and mentors around the world. We're going to hand over to David Clutterbuck now for a Q&A session, and then another member of the team will join you at the end of the session to provide further ways that we can support you throughout your time in the program. I'm really delighted to thank Qualcomm and Qualcomm Wireless Reach for making this video series and this learning possible. With that, I will say a huge welcome and happy mentoring, everyone. We really hope you build a strong relationship and have a great time in the program. Enjoy!
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
There's a really big difference between being a mentor and being a good mentor. Lots of natural instincts we have, like to advise, to do most of the talking, wanting to find solutions for other people, they undermine the effectiveness of mentoring. So actually things that we think of that we're good at actually get in the way. So we have to learn to relax, to allow the mentee to take control of the conversation, to steer it gently. Every mentor can improve their skills and hence the quality of their mentoring. Some it's about having an attitude. Some it's about having a wide enough toolkit that you feel comfortable with that will enable you to tackle lots of different kinds of issues. So when we talk about attitude, we're talking about the confidence that comes from practicing the skills of listening and questioning and so forth. The confidence that comes from being clear how you're helping the mentee with the quality of their thinking. And when we talk about the toolkit, basically we're saying the more tools that you have, the more ways that you can help the mentee, the less time you waste time thinking about what am I going to do now? How am I going to help now? What question am I going to ask? And so you listen more. And so it all makes a nice positive cycle. There are two types of skills that we notice. There's generic skills and situational skills. The generic skills mostly relate to the mentoring conversation itself. So how do you listen? How you use silence? How you ask questions? We talk about listening and questioning in another video in this series, and also we talk about being a role model in one of the other videos. The other side is the situational skills, and these come into play when specific issues arise. So let's take some examples. So you may find that the mentee struggles to make choices because they've got a conflict of values. So it's useful to have some tools that you can use to just bring out of your kit bag to say to them, let's try this, let's experiment with this. So a couple of the tools that we might use. One is the change balloon. Think about a hot air balloon. It's floating through the sky and it's got on its side, it's got lots of sandbags which hold it down. Each of those sandbags is a choice or a part of the choice that they can make. So if you were moving house, for example, you might want to say, one would be price, another one would be the size of the garden, another one would be location. So each one of these things is a particular issue. Then what we would do is imagine that there's a leak in the balloon. You've got to throw a sandbag overboard. Which one would you go first? This is a very visual process. And you throw one away. And then you say, that leak, it's getting bigger. Which one is going to go next? and you throw that over. And you go right the way back until you get 2 only. And those are your primary considerations, the things that are most important. And what you've got is a ranking here of how important the issues are in their choices. The other one, the other technique that I particularly like very much is called separate selves. And basically you say to yourself, well, okay, what would my generous self want to do here? What would my mean self want to do here? Or what would my creative self and my non-creative self want to do? My cautious self or my risk-taking self. So you look at the different sides of you and you say, what would those selves do in this situation? You might actually have a conversation. Just be your generous self. Let me have a conversation with your generous self. And then you see what happens. So now let's switch to being your mean self. And this way you gradually bring out the realities, that the way that you're thinking, those deeper emotional connections that underlie the choices that we make. People often sometimes find it difficult to motivate themselves to change because they can't see the way forward clearly enough. So there's lots of techniques we can use here. One which is quite complex is to get the person to think about on where they are on a scale of 0 to 10 on this process. That's fairly common in coaching and mentoring to do. But not so common is actually getting them to look back from where they are there to how they got to that point. And to look at how they went from each step to the next. Now you can start to look forward. What would one step further look like? What would you have to do to make one step further towards your goal? And so you've got a process here. Another one is writing yourself a letter, your future self. What would they be telling you should be doing right now? So in 5 years' time, what would that person be telling you, this person now? And another one which I particularly like is called scripting. And basically what that does is you get the mentee to write down in a situation where they're not achieving what they want to every time they meet this situation. Maybe they're going into meetings and they're not getting the sales, or they're coming out of it and not having achieved their objectives. And the script is 3 things. It's what did you say, what did you feel, and what did the other person say? And so you write the script, and you might do it for a couple of these sessions. And then you compare those 2, and you find the same themes, the same patterns occur. And then as a mentor you say, okay, what would you like to change first? And for most people it's the ending that they want to change. But it could be any part of that process. You change a little bit of the script first. And each time you meet, you change a bit more of that script. It's a very simple process, but it sets out a process for achieving some behavioral change. When people feel discontented with their job or their life or their outside work, but aren't sure why, we've got, again, a lot of techniques. One very useful one is called the life streams, or the 6 life streams. And basically, the life streams we have are work, that's career, which may not be the same thing, it may be 2 different things for most people. Our family and our social life, our close friends, how we keep healthy, how we occupy ourselves, keep our minds active, and the sense of belonging, being part of a community. What we find is that people who are most healthy and balanced, whether they work in corporations or whether they work as entrepreneurs, actually have a focus on all of these things and actually manage to get something of a balance between them. And one of the things we can do as a mentor is to say, okay, what can you do over the next 6 months or 12 months to actually address each of those areas and make sure that you are achieving in all 6 life streams. Entrepreneurs feel much more secure and are much more likely to succeed if they have that balance. There are so many skills that a mentor needs, and we can just begin to list some of them. But being a critical friend, I think, is one of the most important things. Very often, nobody around the entrepreneur will tell them those critical lessons that they need to learn. But because you care, you're able to do it, and because they know that you care and you're doing it because you want to help, they will much more likely to listen to you than, say, to a family member. You need the skill of being able to summarize, to actually say, okay, let's just pull together. What are we saying here? What are the key points that you want to take away from this? And one of the critical ways that we find to summarize, we call it the 4 I's. And the 4 I's are issues. What do we talk about? Ideas. What ideas did we generate? Or new thinking did we generate? Insights is the third one. And so what do we see differently? And then finally, intentions. What are you going to do differently? Who else are you going to talk to? And those 4 I's form the basis for summarizing just about anything, any conversation, but particularly a mentoring conversation. We can also summarize to look at, content, what was actually said and not said, and emotion, how are people feeling, what are the values they're applying now. We can summarize for intent, what do you want to do? And those 3 things, again, another way of summarizing. It's clear that you can't care for the mentee properly if you don't care for yourself. We talk about the mentor needing to be compassionate towards the mentee, but they need to be compassionate towards themselves as well. That can be tough. Also, it's important to recognize if the mentee is becoming dependent on you. That's not good for you and it's not good for them. So you need to push back to actually help them to see that no, they must take responsibility, that they can't just lean on you because you're not going to be there forever. There's a process that's called the Dreimer triangle. And basically, the way that it plays out is that you can be seen as either a victim, a persecutor, or a rescuer. And in so many cases, the mentee comes to the mentor with the view, nobody loves me, everything's going wrong, everybody's against me, but you're my friend, you're going to rescue me. And the mentor has to say, no, I can't rescue you, I can help you think through how you're going to do things for yourself. And the mentee then responds, oh, you're just like the rest of them. And so they perceive you as the persecutor. And if you allow that to happen, the relationship is going to be damaged, the rapport will disappear, and all you have to do is to say, actually, let's look at what's happening here. We're playing some roles here, let's stop doing that. And you just have to name it and just stop it. But it's very easy to get sucked in to playing one of those roles. I think the main way that you can look after yourself is to continue to grow in your role as a mentor. I talk about seeing yourself as a work in progress. And if you do that, you don't need to be perfect. You're always going to be growing and becoming the person that you want to become. And so it's also then important to review and to celebrate how you grow in your confidence and your competence as a mentor.
Bonjour tout le monde, hi everyone, my name is Audrey from the mentoring team. Thank you so much for watching this video and being part of our global community. Whether you're just getting started or you're well into your relationship, remember that our team is on hand to support and assist with anything you need. We have a dedicated help desk just for mentees and mentors. We're always just an email, text, WhatsApp or call away, and we love to hear from you. We can provide coaching on how to use mentoring techniques, information on how to plan for your relationship, guidance on how to use our platform and where to find business, mentoring or leadership resources, help connecting with your mentee or mentor, and lots of encouragement throughout your time in the program. Please do keep these conversations going via the forum and make use of the wealth of information that's available on the forum and the library. Thank you so much for watching the video again. Bye!
Audio Jungle.